Wow. I get so hyped listening to that. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Something About podcast and live stream. I'm your host, Souza from Linea. Thank you for having me. It's great to be back. So, this is episode 2 of our Something About Stewards series. Last week, if you were here, I sat down with Sip, the head of Status Network, to learn how they're building a gasless L2 on Linea's ZK stack. And we explored how clusters of L2 can be built that are built on the same stack can create a stronger roll-up economy and ecosystem on Linea. You should watch that last episode if you missed it. But today we're tuning to Eigen Cloud, previously known as EigenLayer or Eigen Labs. And Eigen is often described as the AWS of Ethereum. They provide decentralized data availability and compute, but they're probably best known for introducing restaking. And restaking's everywhere now, but it was such a huge breakthrough, and it allowed Ethereum's staked ETH to secure services and protocols beyond Ethereum itself. So restaking has unlocked an entire marketplace of infrastructure services for dApps to build on, and it's expanded Ethereum's capabilities, and it's essentially changed the trajectory of crypto infrastructure forever. So that's why we're excited to have Eigen on today, and that's exactly why Eigen is a steward on the Linea consortium. Eigen will help guide Linea as we evolve alongside Ethereum's evolution. So joining us today to unpack all of this is JT Rose, the Chief Growth Officer, and Kaido, a GM at Eigen. So welcome, guys. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, Susie.
Lovely to
Thanks.
have you. Hi. JT actually used to work at Consensus, as I feel like it's like a rite of passage in crypto to work at Consensus.
Yep,
So I'm glad we're in the same orbit and working together again. It's nice to see you.
that's good to see you guys.
Um, Thanks. So let's just get into it. So let's start where we are today. How do Eigen and Linea actually work together right now? I'm assuming they're technically intertwined some way, and that's why you guys are one of the stewards. So explain how that works today.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. You teed it up nicely in your intro there. I mean, I think we've got a core that many people
Thank you.
know us about with restaking. We built a restaking protocol, pioneered restaking as a way to use Ethereum stake to secure applications and protocols and bootstrap security. Um, on top of which we and other developers, AVSs, have been building powerful cloud services and AVSs on any chain, including Linea. So Eigen Cloud is really kind of an all-in-one platform for Linea developers. EigenLayer acts as a native bridge that connects and secures services. EigenDA, which Kaido can talk a lot about, supercharges Linea chains with the highest throughput data availability in the industry. And Eigen Compute, which we've been building recently on top of EigenLayer, abstracts away a lot of the complexity of node operations and stake and allows developers to build directly in a cloud container. Which makes it really easy to not only build more ambitious applications that couldn't fit on chain, but start to bring AI agents on chain as well. So when you think about it, security, data, compute, all of this plugs directly into Linea. And our goal, our focus with Eigen Cloud is to help Linea developers move faster and build more ambitious applications.
Nice. Kaido, do you want to add anything? That was so good,
No,
though.
that's
Nailed it,
why
JT.
JT is JT. Super great to be here, Susie. Thank you for having
Thank
me as
you.
well.
Of course.
No, I think that the thing I'm most excited about from the DA perspective, we're working with a few Linea chains and Linea then yourself, and also maybe other stores to supercharge. I think everything that JT talked about, from developer tooling on the chain infra itself, back into the amazing native bridge that you guys are cooking up. So I think each layer ties very nicely with one of the product offering we have.
Nice. And I love that you mentioned there's like linear chains, which I didn't even know that was going to be a thing. And then all of a sudden, I'm like hearing about like all of these chains using the ZK stack. So it gives you confidence that we have something good. And now we can build a cluster. We can like work together and have an ecosystem of chains. It's pretty wild.
I'm super
I don't
excited.
know. Okay, so you guys introduced the concept of restaking. I feel like most people know what it is, but give us like a 30-second overview of restaking for anyone who doesn't know what it is, and then follow up with how this will benefit builders on Linea specifically.
Sure. Yeah, restaking is really a way for builders to bootstrap security. We found that it's actually really hard to go through the paces. Linea, you remember this from the last couple of years. It's a long process, and so every blockchain is really made up of three ingredients. You've got stake, you got operators, and you have the software. So, for example, BSC uses BNB as stake, BSC operators, and then Ethereum's Geth software. Same as Avalanche. Eigenlayer abstracts a lot of this away. It lets any stake secure any operators running on any network. And that's a really, really big unlock because we made it possible for builders to use Ethereum stake first. So there was a lot of Ethereum stake sitting out there that was secured in the Ethereum network after the merge, after proof of stake. And we felt like that stake could be used to bootstrap ambitious builders across the ecosystem if we could just make it available for them to rent almost.
Right.
So even if they don't have their own token yet, they can secure their own crypto protocols. And that means you can launch faster on stronger security with fewer barriers. It abstracts away a lot of the sort of undifferentiated heavy lifting that is required to kind of bootstrap security, and lets the application developers on a chain like Linea just focus on their app and focus on the protocol.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that how you guys have like a layer. You're like the infra for infra, and then that infra provides the things that app needs. It's like a layer upon layer upon layer, and then it's just easier for everyone to build.
That's right.
So can you talk about like looking ahead? Are there integrations between Eigen and Linea like in the future that are coming? Like, do you have any alpha that you can share about what's to come for what the relationship might look like?
Yeah,
Everyone
sure.
loves alpha.
There's a couple of things top of mind. I mean, one thing that's coming out this next week that we've been working on with your team is the Eigen Dev Kit. So working against Eigenlayer, sort of raw Eigenlayer, the protocol it's been a journey. I think the early adopters would attest that it hasn't been the easiest thing to work directly against. And so we've been working in partnership with your team on something called the Eigen Dev Kit, which really accelerates AVS development. You can think about it in sort of a traditional cloud world, like an AWS or an Azure, as like a cloud formation template or sort of an EC2 equivalent that again kind of accelerates development. That's going to be really, really important for things like DeFi. There's a lot of DeFi ambitions on
Lots
Linea.
of DeFi, yes.
We got $20 billion worth of stake, $20 billion in almost assets
20
under.
billion?
Yeah, we're the largest U.S. protocol, largest U.S. protocol, third largest in the world behind Aave and Lido. So lots of assets under management, right? Lots of TVL that's looking for yield, and we want to empower DeFi builders, in particular on Linea, to access that stake and build faster. And so DevKit is a really, really cool advance that we're making on the developer front. DA, which Kaido can talk about, just pushed its throughput to 100 gigabytes per second, which is just mind-bending. I think it's like 100 times faster than Ethereum blobs, and we've been working quite closely with the
Whoa.
Ethereum. And it's the most ambitious builders, I think, are really looking for throughput, and data availability is one of the areas that's been a traditional bottleneck, but Ethereum's got a really great roadmap, and Kaido can talk about this to improve throughput. But we've been working on it to empower builders, in particular institutional builders, which we'll get into in a little bit.
And
then
I want to ask you about that.
Yeah, we can get into that in a second. And then on the compute front, something we're really excited about is we've been working on verifiable inference. So a lot of the AI projects that have been trying to figure out how to build on chain have run into this issue of how do you make the inference of the agents verifiable.
Yeah.
And then we've been working on some services that'll come out a little bit later this year to allow off-chain agents to interact with on-chain token contracts. And we're really excited for builders on Linea to get access to some of these tools.
We want access. We want first access, actually. As a steward, I would like to request first access to all of these things. But I'm sure you could. You can give it to us, right? So what? Obviously, you guys are very Ethereum aligned. You're like helping basically Ethereum becomes so much more accessible by providing all of the infra for the apps. like, tell us why you should. I mean, that's like a pretty good reason for you to be a steward. Are there any like specific benefits that you see or like unique perspectives that you're like, this is why we make a great like contributor to manage your token fund?
Yeah, very
What
happy
like
to
the
jump in here.
yeah,
I think the
tell us.
conversation accelerated super fast from the initial idea all the way to being part of the consortium. I think there are two layers. I think Ethereum alignment is definitely a key part. The way I would phrase it is actually Ethereum centric. I'm going to talk about it. I think that's the first layer. The second layer is synergy. I think the synergy is very, very clear. We have SBET, it's all about how do we have the best yield vehicle for digital asset treasuries. And Eigen layer sits at the restaking layer. Very, very clear synergy there. Linea, this amazing chain stack that allow developers to build on the best platform, and Eigen Clouds provides the best infra across all these different categories, compute, DA, etc. And lastly, we have Status and ENS. And Status specifically, we're currently working very, very closely on a lot of stuff around verifiable services, their gasless mechanism. Actually, I was talking to Sip quite a bit on
Yeah,
how do we make those mechanism available to developer in less trusted ways with EigenLayer. And also, of course, through DA, thinking about how do we power developers and the chain infra providers to push throughput that are just not possible today on Ethereum, but is competitive with Solana and all the other alternative layer ones. And the second part
yeah,
is about Ethereum centric. I think it's the part that really kickstart the conversation. We build our business on Ethereum. That's the reality. We have $20 billion worth of stake. We've given out hundreds of millions of incentive to Ethereum stakers. We need Ethereum to succeed for us to succeed. So all these ensures that our success is built on top of Ethereum's. And when I look at all the consortium members is the same way. So I think that is equally important. And you mentioned Ethereum alignment. I see Ethereum alignment is more on the ethos side. You have JT, who
yes.
of course is from Consensus. Me personally grew up in the Ethereum DAO space. So I think everyone here at Eigen are also very, very Ethereum aligned from the ethos perspective. So I think
You
those
share
are
the
sort
same
of the
values.
yes, exactly. You share the
I love
same
that you say you
value. You
grew
drive
up.
the yeah,
You're
share
like,
the same
I
business
grew up in
value.
the Ethereum space. Like your like parents raised you Ethereum. It's like a denomination. I love how you
100%.
said that.
Yeah. So just summarize, synergy with all the other consortium members, business goal alignment on Ethereum centric, and lastly, ethos, Ethereum aligned.
I love that. We do share the same ethos. Okay, so let's talk about this institutional thing because Linea right now, if you've like seen all of our marketing, you're probably thinking, damn, Linea is about to onboard some major institutions to crypto. And we're positioning ourselves as Ethereum itself. And I feel like Eigen is also Ethereum itself, or it feels like that to me. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but yeah, so aligned. So how is Eigen positioned to be part of like the institutional playbook? Um, yeah, how are you positioned to do that? Because that's such an important part of like the direction Linea is going.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because Joe, the first time I actually met Joe was when he was doing his original pitch to institutions. He was going to the traditional cloud players. Back in 2017, I was working in Azure, and Joe pilled Satya Nadella
No
and
way.
Microsoft team that Ethereum was going to be this new substrate for building applications. And he got Microsoft to cut $1 million check to fund DevCon 1. And our team was like, "What the heck are we doing
What are
here?"
we doing? Who is this guy?
And that team was like, he got us. He outsourced a lot of this work to Microsoft. He was trying to get us to build the original L2. We built Quorum with JP Morgan to try to figure out how to help Ethereum scale and onboard institutional workloads. So this is a subject that's near and dear to my heart. But we're at Eigen Cloud and Eigen Layer, we're super aligned with this. This is what drives ultimate adoption of Ethereum. So we're seeing growing interest from institutions, both Wall Street looking for yield. So lots of conversation with the digital asset treasuries, as Kaido mentioned. Cloud providers looking for new ways to get exposure to these applications. And then fintech and finapps, right? The Robinhoods, the Revoluts, the Circles, the Stripes of the world. They're looking to build on-chain experiences for their users. And so for us, we've been trying to find our niche and where we can play a unique role. I think first, data availability, Kaido, as you mentioned, the types of applications and the types of experiences that these institutions are used to providing for their users are not throttled by throughput. And so
Yeah, exactly.
throughput has been a sort of the lifeblood of the L2 story for a while, and it's part of why Linea was built. But I think on the data availability side, we're trying to remove that bottleneck as well. On Eigen Cloud, I think what the goal with Eigen Cloud was to expand the design space of crypto. We felt like many more things could be built on chain that were being built on chain today, right? It's been largely, our killer apps have largely been confined to DeFi, which is unsurprising because these sort of chains were meant to handle the logic of token contracts. And so we wanted to figure out if we could abstract and pull some of the logic, the application logic, off-chain into off-chain containers that we could maintain verifiability with the Eigen token, and allow developers at these institutions to build in sort of a familiar format, right? Build against just traditional cloud containers. So that allows us to handle much more robust and complex application logic, which you can't jam on chain in the EVM today. I think the third is Ethereum aligned security. Ethereum has become the institution chain. I think Tom Lee and team have done a great job of hammering this home with Wall Street, but I think it's always, going back to Joe's roots, it's always been the most institutionally friendly chain for all types of workloads. And so becoming institutions deploying on Linea can trust the same validator set, billions in stake capital that already secure the largest blockchain in the world. And then finally, I think there's, we know that institutions are going to want modularity. They're not going to want vendor lock-in. So Ethereum is sort of to use Joe's term, he used to talk about it as metropolitan Ethereum, right? We're all sort of like members of this broader community. And so with Eigen and Linea, you can pick and choose exactly which stack you need and scale as your needs evolve.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to ask you a question about the modularity thing, but if they wanted more, like if you're talking institutions, do they want something that's more turnkey or do they want like the pick and choose? I mean, I could see either one sometimes.
I think that's the part becomes beautiful with EigenLayer, because the modularity and programmability also gives you arbitrary things that you can build yourself, or you can just plug and play into different things. And that they all sort of fit together very beautifully. And one example is, on the roll-up side, how do you deal with privacy in a way that's, also doesn't sacrifice the security of things? So from that perspective, from DA, we offer this mechanism around programmable privacy, and I would say is pretty much no other service provider would be able to match. And from that perspective, I think to institutions, another angle that becomes interesting, where the base layer, you can just use DA as it is, but you can add in more programmable things on top because we have the Eigen Cloud to support Eigen DA as a individual DA project.
So are you guys are you talking to a lot of institutions and they're like the time is now? Because there's so many, like the Genius Act got passed in the US, right? There's all
Yep.
this like legislation that's happening. The tone has shifted. Are people like coming to you saying, let's fucking do this? Like, are they like ready to go?
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're having
That's so cool.
in kind of those three categories, right? I think in obviously Wall Street's banging down our door. I think people they're understanding that that there is opportunity to generate additional yield with staking, restaking, and DeFi, and they want to learn more about it. And so we've been on the Wall Street side. Certainly, there's always been interest, but now there's permission almost to go and explore these primitives that we have known for a long time are really powerful and attractive. But I think what's been really interesting is, Kaido, you've been having a lot of these conversations. Is the fintechs and the finapps are realizing, coming to find that the on-chain experiences that they can build are really differentiated relative to what they can provide in a centralized way. And so they're really looking for guidance. And in particular, there's been just a ton of interest on the FinApp side on what we can do with agentic finance, and can we create agent-based trading experiences for users, where imagine like a user could come in and say, and I know we're going to talk about agent-to-agent protocol here in a little bit, but
We can just go to it next because I'm so excited. This is the most excited I'm talking.
Like, these are the most universally the most interesting conversations that we have. It's kind of there's
yeah,
yeah.
What do they want to build?
Could you imagine like a Robinhood, for example, right? Robinhood is probably got the closest DNA to crypto, right? You have large dollar traders, but you have smaller dollar traders that are trading more retail, similar to crypto, and they trade with similar patterns, with similar, and they're looking for ways to engage those users and help them trade more confidently, trade more, have a little bit more fun while they're doing it. And so, there could be a world, and we've been having some conversations with some of the players in the space about agents that can do like mirror trading, right? I want to trade like Kaido. I want to trade like Susie. I want to trade with this risk profile.
Copy trading. Yeah.
Exactly. Copy trading. I want to do, I want to trade within this risk band, and I want to generate this much return in this much time. But how do you know that agent is going and acting on your behalf? They're not just providing a recommendation back to you that this is what you should do. If you want to empower them to go and act on your behalf and expect that they act within the parameters that you set for them, you need some measure of verifiability, or there's always going to be a cap to the dollar amount you'll put at risk. And so I think there's an observation just across AI workloads that we're finding that AI will always sort of be just either a recommendation engine or an augmentation to human potential until that trust ceiling is breached. And that's sort of one of the use cases that we think if we can sort of technically plummet through, that we could put crypto economic security to work doing, right? Is to these agents have to post collateral to backstop their behavior, and if they break the terms of the conditions of a contract, then they would have their collateral slashed. So there's that design space becomes really, really interesting for these FinApps, because they don't want to necessarily build these capabilities in-house, but if they could build these sort of agentic experiences that are plugged in to their platform, that could be a really interesting way to drive new engagement and usage with their platforms.
I've been asking someone to build me a Susie bot for ages, and I found one team that could do it. But because I don't want the AI agent where I'm like using plain English to like say, hey, trade this to this. I don't care about that. Who gives a shit about that? What I want is a robot to make me money while I sleep. And I want to exactly what you said, JT. I want to give it some money, and I want to be like, here's what I want to focus on. Here's the yield I'm looking for. I'm high risk or I'm low risk or whatever. Take my money and go make me money.
Just don't trade blood.
That's the future.
Don't stay away from these categories, right? Like,
be ethical.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the future. So let's talk about this. Let's just skip ahead on our little agenda here, and let's talk about ERC 8004, because I heard about it. Marco De Rossi, who works at Consensus, he's a guy who's working on it. I was like, Marco, you're tagged in this? This is crazy. Tell us about ERC 8004 in the simplest of terms. What is it? What does it do?
Yeah, love that Marco's been taking the lead on this. Marco was a great PM counterpart of mine when I was at Consensus, and really excited to see what he's doing in this space. Nima from our team, Kaido, is also contributing to this, contributing to this work. But 8004, what's the the simple terms? So it's about what we were talking about earlier. It's about trustless agents. So think of it as Ethereum extending Google's agent-to-agent communication protocol. So the protocol was actually built by Google. They sort of incubated the idea, they got some feedback on it, and now they are open sourcing it and recruiting projects to contribute to the spec. So they've done this before with things like Kubernetes, they did it with TensorFlow. So they have a great idea, they know what they want to do. They go get industry experts like MetaMask, Consensus, Linea, EigenLayer to contribute to the spec, harden it, and then they make it available for people to use open source. So Ethereum here is extending the agent-to-agent communication protocol that Google has built with a trust layer. So it lets agents discover, choose, and interact across organizational boundaries without pre-existing trust. So just like Ethereum became kind of like the trust layer for DeFi and L2s, it can now be the trust layer for AI coordination, which is super
So
exciting.
what you're saying is we're talking about here like swarms. We're not talking about like these mega chat GPTs. We're talking about when you have an AI agent and it's specialized, it's like a niche AI agent. And then those AI agents, if somebody requests something and your niche AI agent doesn't have the answer, you can like put a ping out into the ether. And then an agent's like, I know the answer. And then the agent comes in and you use these swarms of agents, correct, to like give you the answer rather than these giant computers.
Yeah,
It's
and
go ahead with Kyle.
yeah, and the interesting thing is now, when you shout into the
Send a ping.
send a ping, and then they provide the answer. That's where value transfer also happens as well. Like my
Yeah,
favorite saying is, who likes crypto today? People who grew up with the internet. So the internet native generation likes crypto. And all
right.
these AI are internet native, species in some way, right? They're on the internet.
Yeah,
Imagine what they will do with crypto. So that is, I think, what makes 8004 super super exciting. And I know people like Google are very excited about it. People like Circle are very very excited about it. If you read their annual filing and their reporting, a lot of their talking points and their belief is that in the future, it's not just commerce going to happen on chain with stablecoin. It's also going to be AI agents. It's going to power billions and trillions of transactions that we cannot swipe at that fast
right.
of a pace, but the AIs can ping and get paid instantly, and that becomes really interesting as well. And the entire 8004 framework also lays a foundation on how do we have industry buy-in and harden it so people can utilize it in the future.
So it's like basically like, how do I know that you're like a trusted AI? Like, how can I trust you that you are the expert that you say you are? Is that right? And so it like provides that accountability. And if they're actually not the AI you think they are, then they get slashed. Is that how it works?
There you go. Now it's coming back to restaking.
Is that how it works?
Yeah. I mean, I think we're talking
So
about
cool.
trusted agents managing DeFi portfolios, doing kind of cross-institution coordination, maybe working in some of the trade finance scenarios, the supply chain scenarios that we dreamed up back in 2017, 2018, but couldn't quite figure out how to get done. Automated underwriting, insurance, reporting, asset settlement. It's a whole new world for trusted coordination. Sriram has been talking about the reason that he built Eigenlayer in the first place was to accelerate human coordination. He felt like that was his 30-year mission. And we've been
Wow.
talking whether we want to update that mission for his personal mission to human and AI coordination. Because if you believe and subscribe to a world that one day we're going to be working hand in hand alongside hiring AI agents to do some of this work for us, we need to think about the coordination challenge, not just of coordinating amongst ourselves, but coordinating with this new species, Kaido, as you alluded to. So it's a super interesting space, and love to see Ethereum on the vanguard here.
Yeah, you know what I always think about is like, how do you pay the agent, right? If I'm the team that develops an agent that is used in the swarm, like, and I help contribute to the answer you're looking for. My question is like, do they get paid? And if so, like, how does that work? Do you guys have any thoughts?
Stable coins to a MetaMask wallet
I know.
on Linea.
I guess you just built it into the,
You just build it into the workflow. It just is like
yeah.
anybody else.
Okay. Well, it's like, what percentage did you answer? I guess somebody could figure it out. Somebody could figure it out. Okay, so 8004, do we know the timeline for this? And um, if so, when is it going to be on Linea? That's what I want to know. It's like in progress, but
Yeah, it's a great question. I do think it's moving really quickly. So I think the last time I checked, and Marco would probably know the answer to this better than anybody else, is they're in the sort of request for comment and contribution stage. And so they're sort of actively recruiting projects from kind of across the space and at that intersection in particular of crypto and AI to contribute and to contribute to the spec and add comments. But I'm not sure what the exact timeline is for the next step.
And
Okay,
for
I'm good.
ERC specifically, because nothing touches the underlying ZK EVM, etc. It's just more like a shared agreement that this is the standard we use. So people can always build on top of it. You know, if people in hackathons, people want to experiment today, they can always do that regardless the status of the ERC specifically. It's similar with ERC 20, where it's a standard, but you can of course code using ERC 20 standard before the standard is quote unquote approved on the tracking page.
Guys, this is the future. And then there's validators, there's staking, there's slashing. It's all coming together. And I'm personally very excited to see how this plays out. Somebody build me a Susie bot, please, for Pete's sake. I've been asking for this for a year. Everyone doesn't have time on their roadmap, Everyone's just so busy, but
You got to go call.
maybe. I know, I should have my own hackathon. I should have my own hackathon and just call in projects to build this. That's an idea.
It will be a hackathon with different agents using A004, paying each other to build a Susie bot.
Can we do this? I had a whole system. I was like, okay, I want some KOL influence. I had like a whole list of like things that were all going to work together to then like create the decision-making process. I'll share it.
I'm calling Nodder right after this call. Nodder and Francesco, and I'm getting them on this.
Here is the Susie bot specs. Please figure out how we can do this. So you're saying that, I guess it makes sense that so institutions I feel like are really risk averse, but they're also innovative, but they never want to be the first ones. But do you guys feel like now is the time, like they're like all in and they're gonna do LRTs, they're gonna do AI agents? Like, what's like the appetite to like jump into these things? Like, what do you see them? What are the things that EigenLayer offers that they're the most excited to say, like, yes, give me, here's the menu. I want these 5 things. Like, what are they most excited about?
Yeah, it's a great question. I kind of put it in 2 buckets. On the EigenLayer front, the restaking front, how can we get more yield on ETH is kind of one category of conversations where institutions are getting more,
makes sense,
a little bit more risk on. And then on the AI front, the kind of cloud front, like how can we build more ambitious applications on chain? And that's on the EigenLayer front. We're definitely seeing more interest from institutions. I think lots of conversations with the DATs in particular. I think they're really.
What are DATs? Sorry,
DATs, the digital asset treasury companies.
okay.
Like a SharpLink Gaming or an Ether Machine. These folks are looking for additional yield on their ETH, and they're finding that staking, traditional staking, that's going to have that the return on traditional staking is going to go down over time, as they need to be able to backfill those basis points with additional projects. And so AVSs on EigenLayer can fill those gaps. So you think you started at 300 basis points on traditional staking, that goes down over time to say 200. You want to backfill 20, 50, 75 bips, at a slug. And they're looking at how can they do that. And so restaking is a really interesting primitive for Wall Street, because it's sort of an analog to staking. Staking is already getting, as you mentioned, with Genius and Clarity, is starting to get some institutional wins in its sales and institutional understanding. And so restaking is not is understandable, more understandable in many ways than just kind of raw DeFi is. And so the treasury companies are really interested in how they can start to dip their toes in the water with restaking. They're starting at in many ways with us with EigenDA. It's a very low risk thing to stake and support with your ETH. But there's also a whole category of infrastructure AVSs. Infura is launching. DIN is launching as an AVS imminently. and there's a great opportunity, I think, for us to put those infrastructure AVSs in front of these digital asset treasury companies as a way for them to support those projects and generate additional yield. And then the configurability of, they want to climb up the risk ladder, they want to go into more yield producing AVSs in DeFi. Eigenlayer has that as well. So we just enabled a capability called redistribution, that instead of slashing the collateral that you post to secure these protocols, if contract terms are broken in some way, the funds, instead of being slashed and burned, are redistributed to the affected party. And so there's all sorts of new
it's like
interesting,
a bounty.
Exactly right. It's like you can redistribute the collateral to the harmed party. And so that opens up a ton of really interesting DeFi use cases: borrow, lend, insurance, vaults. And so we're seeing a ton of excitement and energy there, which we'd love to ideally see built on Linea. And so a lot of these sort of treasury managers are looking at restaking because of the configurability of risk. And then on the cloud side, we're definitely seeing, I wouldn't call it like, risk aversion. They're just curious, right? It's almost harkening back to the 2017, 2018 Ethereum optimism of what can we build on chain, right? What if we reimagined workflows and cross-party workflows on chain? And whereas 6, 7, 8 years ago, we very quickly ran into programmability and throughput issues. Now a lot of those issues have been addressed, and so there's a real energy, I would say, in sort of Web 2 and traditional finance to start to build applications on chain again, and that's super exciting. That's what we're building the Eigen Cloud for.
Is exciting. That is exciting. We're back.
We're back.
Feels like we're back.
We're back.
Finally. It's touch and go there for a while. It was a little sad, but we've stuck around. We've dive enhanced it. We've made it back.
I didn't have any of this white hair in my beard when I started. It's all because of Ethereum, but it was an act of love.
Yeah, I think it looks good. Didn't even notice. Didn't even notice. So we burned through a lot of these questions that I had which is good. But I only have one question left for you, which is, if you were in a Linea Consortium meeting right now as a steward, what is the first thing that you would push forward to prioritize Linea to do? Like, this is the one thing that Linea should be doing to move itself forward and boost its ecosystem as quickly as possible, or as best as possible. What would you do?
That's a great question. Well, as a Linean and as a former member of the Linea team, I know that Linea has always been about enabling ambitious builders and applications and bringing them on chain. And so I think we have a lot of shared DNA there. It's part of the reason we were super excited about being in the consortium with you all. And it's why we built restaking. It's why we built cloud. And so I think I'd probably encourage a conversation about two different time horizons, right? Like what can we do in the near term to drive to build innovative DeFi yield on Linea? I know we want Linea to be the home for DeFi on chain, and there's a lot of near-term growth and interest in that, as I was talking about earlier. But I think harnessing some of the ambition of Marco de Rossi and the AI teams that sort of live within the mesh of consensus, and keeping a long-term vision for how do we bring AI on chain, and having a lot of sort of joint product development and exploration on how we achieve that would be that's the conversation that we want to have. And how do we put incentives and how do we put our expertise to bear to activate those two spaces, both in the short term and the long term.
And to add on top of that, also I would say diversity of institution. Right now in crypto, when we think about institution, just financial institution, and to JT's point, is very immediate term oriented. But the medium long term, you look at the biggest company none of them are financial institutions, but they're institutions themselves. So how do we, work with them on the AI initiatives, starting with Google, but of course we're working with many different individuals as well, and also governments. How does that, at the end of the day, it's a coordination system. How do we empower them? How do we empower governments across the world in the long term? So also to increase the diversity of institutions we work with. So on the DeFi front, on the immediate, also on AI in the future as well.
That's such a good point. I always think about DeFi institutions, but then I imagine if like the if my driver's license could just be renewed through a smart contract automation instead of having to go to the DMV. I think about that every time I'm at the DMV. I'm like, if only this was on blockchain, and I get really upset about it. Or like, I don't know, you could use it for anything. College diplomas could be NFTs, and I don't
Yep.
know, smart contracts. If you pass all your classes, it just triggers your diploma. Can you imagine?
This
Things
is
like that.
this is the energy and the creativity we need to bring back to crypto. This is like the make crypto ambitious again mantra that we need to kind of
Real
recatalyze.
world use cases.
People have gotten for very good reason, right? We spent a lot of time, a lot of VC treasure, a lot of our energy into solving scalability
A lot of
problems,
time on memes.
and well, a lot of time on memes, but a lot of times the core fundamental technology issues that were limiting and gating that creativity from kind of Ethereum's earliest days. And I think the thing that makes this moment so exciting is that many of those sort of bottlenecks have been addressed. And we've got this moment now where crypto can really step up and not be only accepted by Wall Street, but be really powerful in holding AI to account as it starts to really achieve escape velocity. And so it's great that we've done all this, 6, 7, 8, 9 years of work on the technology to ready it for this moment. And so now I think it's the time for us to be kind of proud of what blockchains can do, what Ethereum can do, and reignite that creativity and bring more of this work on chain.
I love that. Okay, now it's the final question. If you could bring any industry on chain, any industry, like the DM, not even anyone, the DMV, a university, healthcare, cancer research, what would you put on chain to immediately improve the process of it and like accelerate growth? Because I feel like that's what blockchain does. If it's permissioned blockchain or just regular blockchain, public blockchain, right? Permissioned like access could just accelerate
Kaido,
research.
any hot topics for you?
Immediate term, I would say diploma. I worked on this project when I was at school with our registrar and trying to get something on chain. We came close, but the bear market
You
hit, and I
did?
think, yeah. And it's been, I think, my professor, he's been trying to beat the drum on this for about the past 10 years. And
That is amazing.
so maybe this is the time that this cycle is the cycle that we actually bring our registrar on chain.
Please do.
It's a very, very small issue, but I think just bring some of the biggest academic institutions having that legitimacy and sort of create some FOMO around the other industries would be really, really exciting. But I don't think it's the most interesting answer, but it's a great question. Like what institution can we bring on chain that's outside the TradFi folks?
I want verifiable news feeds, right? I want to get on it probably takes works with the search engines, with outfits like Perplexity, with the news generators, the New York Times and the Washington Post of the world, as well as news aggregators, right? It's a complex problem, but I think especially with the rise of AI generated content and some of the things that our parents interact with on Facebook, I think just some sort of a verifiability watermark that just allows us to discern what is truth
Yes.
and what is maybe not truth adjacent, I guess. I think it's a really kind of intersubjective thing to adjudicate, and so there's probably room for us to use AI to figure that out. But that's a big
important
problem space that I would love
Yeah.
to find some partners to go tackle together. If anyone's listening and is interested in building that with us, we're all ears.
Yes. Mine's cancer research, I see everything. I see so many posts every day they're like, in this country, they've discovered this way to cure cancer. And then like 5 days later, it's like, they've discovered this new way to cure cancer. I'm like, how have we not cured cancer? There's like apparently like 20 different ways to cure cancer. Like no one's talking to each other. Let's put that shit on chain. Let's put it on chain. Let's permission it in to make sure it's real researchers, right? And you can have it validated on Eigen layer to confirm
I
that it's
wrote my
real and it's
thesis on it.
flash.
Funny enough.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
my
could change
thesis
the world.
decentralized NIH, NSF, and different scientific research mechanisms. Because I wrote my research on it, I'm a little bit less optimistic about it because I know the bottlenecks. But maybe this is also the cycle where we get interesting. You know, maybe it's a new DARPA moment for government. You know, with the design agency, all these different things coming about. Yeah, totally. I think it's possible, and I think having that like sort of level of new ideas injected into the academic establishment could also be very, very interesting. That maybe we don't see the result in the next 5 years of what crypto can bring to scientific funding, but maybe it will be the next 20 years from now that we see, oh wow, this like previously totally forgotten discovery led to a brand new wave to cure some other diseases and save a lot of people.
Yeah.
I'm long Kaido whenever he decides to start the company to try to solve that problem. So
Me too. Hire me. Guys, we're gonna speed up registrar processes. We're gonna have our parents not fall for fake news on Facebook, and we're gonna cure cancer all on blockchain. All of these things will happen.
for it,
The end. Mic drop.
mic drop.
That was it. Let's mic
Amazing.
drop there. Guys, it was so great to have you. What'd you say?
I said thank you so much for having us. This was fun.
Yes, it was very fun. So great to have you. Eigenlayer, you guys are building amazing things that are the infra for the infra that will power the future of the internet and will power all of these things that we're talking about right now, all of these creative ideas that will have room to breathe and be created. So thank you so much for coming and being part of the Linea Consortium and managing our ecosystem fund. We're very excited to have you.
Thanks.
Thank
Susie.
you.
Yes. Thank you guys.
See you.
Have a good one,
See you
everybody.
next time. See you next week.